it is clear that Trump's early entry into the race has failed to dissuade potential challengers ahead of what could be a crowded primary field. But right now, polling continues to show that the only potential candidate who's within spitting distance of Donald Trump is Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who has yet to declare his own candidacy. Now, today, Governor DeSantis continued to press the issue Republican primary voters apparently care most about, and that issue is owning the libs.
And we just added, because I think it needs to be done, no tax permanently on gas stoves. They want your gas stove, and we're not going to let that happen.
They're not going to let that happen. That was Florida Governor DeSantis today announcing that his big new policy plan for the state of Florida is 6% off your gas range when you use the coupon code DeSantis. Believe it or not, that kind of politics gets you second place in the early Republican primary. But let us be clear. Let us make no bones about this. The frontrunner as of now is still Donald Trump. And the Republican strategy for defeating Trump, preventing him from being the nominee, if you will, is to essentially sit around and hope something bad happens. As The Atlantic's McKay Coppins reports in a new piece for The Atlantic, ask Republicans how they plan to move on from Trump, and the discussion quickly veers into the realm of hopeful hypotheticals. Maybe he'll get indicted and his legal problems will overwhelm him. Maybe he'll flame out early in the primaries or just get bored with politics and wander away. Maybe the situation will resolve itself naturally. He's old, after all. How many years can he have left? Joining us now is Josh Marshall, founder and editor-in-chief of Talking Points Memo. Josh, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Start with a question that confuses me, and that is, which Republican Party do Nikki Haley and Larry Hogan think they are running to potentially be the titular head of? Because it's hard for me to imagine, and Mike Pence for that matter, it's hard for me to imagine any of them having any base of support in the GOP. Is this a fool's errand, or do you think they might be onto something?
Well, I can't imagine Nikki Haley would win the nomination, but at least she's somewhat in line with the politics of the current Republican Party. Hogan, you know, he's almost like, he's certainly considered an honorary Democrat by a lot of Republicans. So, you know, they're not going, neither of them are going anywhere. What really strikes me most about, if you can call it this, you know, kind of incipient primary campaign, is that, you know, everything, even though Donald Trump is clearly much weaker than he was, he's having a hard time raising money. He doesn't, you know, his polls aren't as good. He's got people, you know, who are willing to challenge him and stuff like that. But the whole race is still defined by him. Everything about Ron DeSantis is just, he's the one who might be able to get rid of Trump. He's the there's Trump, there's the get rid of Trump right. candidate. And then there's a bunch of other people who you know, sometimes they, you know, get over 1% in the polls. You know, you have these, you know, GOP presidential primary polls, and often like Liz Cheney is fourth at like 3%. Right. So people like Nikki Haley and Mike Pompeo, they're all at like 1% or like 0%. So, yeah, that is really the thing right now. Clearly, Donald Trump is a lot weaker. He's got all these legal problems. You even see in some ways in his events now, he's kind of off his game. He doesn't quite have it the same way. But still, for the GOP, it's like, you know, dragging around a half-ton anchor on your motorboat, right? You don't. It's not that you're going to go down to the bottom of the river and go down with the anchor, but you can't really go anywhere else either. And that's really kind of where it is, and that's why I think it's possible. I'm not saying it's likely, but it's possible. You know, we're going to have this primary campaign. Donald Trump is going to end up pulling, you know, 30% in each of the primaries, pretty similar to what he did in 2016. And a lot of Republicans are just going to say, well, there's kind of nothing else we can do, so I guess we're going to do this again, even though probably a majority kind of would just assume he, like McKay Coppins said, you know, maybe he'll just get bored and walk away.
Wander away.
Like that.
Or like, I mean, really, they talk about him. I mean, they talk explicitly. Peter Meyer, former congressperson, says, I've heard from a lot of people who will go on stage and put on the red hat, the MAGA hat, and then give me a call the next day and say, I can't wait until this guy dies. And it's like, good Lord. I mean, but that, dark humor though it may be, is really seemingly the strategy here. They are content to literally let nature take its course rather than take away the scepter from the king. It is shocking to me that in this moment where so many lessons have been learned, where the country has borne witness to an insurrection at the direction of Donald Trump, the GOP still cannot say, has lost seats, lost power. They cannot say it is time for you to exit stage right.